Hello, witches, wizards, and those who are yet to receive their Hogwarts school letters. Welcome to my Harry Potter kitchen. This is the YouTube series where I'm baking my way through the Harry Potter books, creating recipes for all of the food and drink we find inside. If you missed the last week's recipe where we made some Quidditch-inspired candy apples, make sure you check out the link down below in the description to catch up. And if you're new to the kitchen and you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell, and you'll get an alert every Magic Monday when there is a brand new recipe. Speaking of which, I'm still hungry for some more wizarding treats, so let's head back to the chamber. Okay, let's go and see what the Weasleys are up to next in Chapter 4 at Flourish and Blocks. So the boys have just finished their Quidditch practice and now they are back inside talking about the rest of the Weasley family. So we hear a bit more about Percy, get introduced to Bill and Charlie, and that's pretty much the end of that day. So it moves on to next Wednesday when they're supposed to be meeting Hermione, and I can see our next recipe. After a quick half a dozen bacon sandwiches each, they pulled on their coats. Looks like there's still time for more breakfast. If you'd like to create your own homemade bacon, then all of the ingredients you need, as well as the instructions, are up on my website, bradleybakes.co.uk. The link is down below in the description. You can't make a bacon sandwich without bacon. So in this week's episode, I'm gonna show you how to make your own bacon at home from scratch. Now, I do have a slight confession to make, probably one of the most controversial things I've said on my channel. I'm not actually a massive fan of bacon. And the reason is because when you buy it from the supermarket, it often has very, very strong brine flavoring in it, which masks the flavor of the pork. So one of the advantages of making your own at home is that you can tailor all of the spices that you put in it, and you know exactly what is going into that final product, and you can make sure it suits your taste. So today I'm going to take you through the process of taking your pork belly, making your own rub to cure it, and then of course cooking it to perfection before turning it into a sandwich. First up is the rub. Now, when you're curing your bacon, you can either do the wet cure method or the dry cure method. As I mentioned, I'm not a massive fan of the brine, so I'm gonna go for a dry rub, which we're gonna make first, and then we're gonna use that to flavor our meat. Making your own dry rub is really easy, and again, you can personalize the spices to suit your taste. Start off by placing the base in, which is gonna be sugar and salt. Then you can flavor it however you wish. I've gone for pepper, celery salt, cumin, turmeric, smoked paprika, and nutmeg. Stir through until well combined, and your rub is done. And it really is that easy to create your own rub. So why not play around with some different flavors and find out what works best for you. Now, the reason that it has such a high sugar and salt content is because we're going to use that to cure the meat. So that is going to preserve it while also giving it some more flavor and helping intensify the flavor of the pork itself. Speaking of which, the pork is a really, really key part of this recipe. So you want to make sure you get yourself a really nice pork belly piece. Now, I saw this one in the butcher's and I had to go for it straight away because it pretty much looks like a lightning bolt. I didn't even cut it this way, it's just how it came out. So, you know, we're gonna have a little bit of my Harry Potter kitchen magic here, naturally, but if you can't find one that looks like this, then a standard flat piece of pork belly will do too. You just wanna make sure you've got some nice marbling of the fat and the meat in there as well. Okay, before we start to rub that and preserve it, we want to wash it first, just to remove any extra impurities, and then we'll get to flavoring. Place your pork belly into some cold water and rub it thoroughly to make sure you clean off any dirt. You then want to remove it from the water and then pat it dry with a tea towel until it is completely dry. Make sure you remove as much of the water as possible, as otherwise this will affect your dry rub. Okay, so that is the pork belly ready, and our rub is over here ready as well, so we can move on to flavoring the meat. You do have one optional step as well, and that is to score the top of the skin. So you want to leave this on, so it's gonna add some more flavor, and don't worry, it's not gonna be too chewy, that's gonna render down as it cures, but if you slice it up, then you will help get some of that rub straight into the flesh. So I'm gonna score on some lightning bolts and some crisscrosses, then we're gonna rub our rub in before sealing it up. Use a sharp knife to score the skin, being careful not to go too deep. Of course, if you want to add some Harry Potter magic, you can make your scores lightning bolts. Once you're happy that it's ready, generously rub in your curing mixture over all sides of the pork. You then want to spend a few minutes rubbing it in to the flesh, making sure that every piece is covered and it's well in place. Place the pork belly inside a Ziploc bag and then seal it tightly. This then needs to go into the fridge to cure for about 10 to 14 days. You want to keep rotating it every now and again just to make sure it cures nice and evenly. In this time, you'll notice that the meat starts to firm up, but don't worry, your bacon will still be lovely and juicy inside. And remember, because of the high sugar and salt content, your meat isn't going to spoil. It will still be nice and fresh for your bacon. After just about 2 weeks, our pork belly will be lovely and cured, and you'll notice that it's now very, very firm when you press it, and that's a good sign that you are ready to go. Okay, our next step, we need to wash off all of those liquids and that cure mixture. We don't want to cook the bacon in that, otherwise it'll be very salty and sweet. So we're going to rinse that off, pat it dry, and then get to cooking. Remove the pork belly from your Ziploc bag and rinse it thoroughly in cold water. Rub it thoroughly to make sure you get all of the excess cure off, and then remove it from the water and pat it dry. Try your best to remove as much liquid as possible. Okay, so our pork belly is lovely and dry, so now we can move on to cooking it. And for this recipe, we're going to use my trusty Sous Vide, which is going to help us cook it in water at an even temperature under vacuum. And that is going to make it the most juicy and succulent bacon you've ever had, and then we'll fry it afterwards to get it nice and crisp too. So for this, all we're going to do is use our vacuum sealer to wrap that up nicely and remove all the air, and then it goes into our Sous Vide. Place your pork belly into your vacuum seal bag and then use a vacuum sealer to remove the air and seal it shut. We're then going to power up the sous vide and heat it to 63 degrees Celsius, which is 145 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to cook this pork belly for 8 hours so it's lovely and tender. Once the water hits temperature, place your pork belly in and leave it to do its magic. If you don't have a sous vide, then don't worry, you can also slow roast your pork belly in the oven at around 150 degrees Celsius for 2 to 3 hours. After your 8-hour cook, you want to remove the pork belly from the hot water, and then a quick trick to cool it down quickly is to place it into some ice cold water. You want to allow it to cool all the way through until we slice it. So our pork belly is beautifully cooked, and now all that's left to do is slice that up, and then we're going to move on to frying it to get it lovely and crispy. And depending on how you like your bacon, you can cut this as thick or as thinly as you like. Cut the vacuum sealed bag open and then remove your pork belly. You then want to pat it down so it's nice and dry and remove any excess fat that's come out while cooking. You can then proceed to slicing it as thickly or as thinly as you like. You can then either wrap and freeze these or cook them straight away. Okay, that is our bacon nicely sliced, and I'm so happy that those lightning bolt shapes have held as it cured and cooked. Didn't intend for it to be that way, that was just how the piece of pork belly was, but it's held, so we've got a little bit of natural muggle magic there. Okay, all that's left to do is cook off our bacon, and we're gonna get it lovely and crispy before we put it into our sandwich. Place your frying pan on a medium-high heat and then add in some oil. Once it's nice and hot, you then want to place your bacon in, giving it enough room to fry. As mine are quite thick, I'm going to allow them to fry for about 2 to 3 minutes on either side. Once it starts to caramelize and go crispy, flip it over and allow it to continue cooking. Once you're happy with the finish, remove from the pan and allow it to drain off on some kitchen towel to remove any excess oil. I've then taken some of my lightning bolt bread, you can check out the full recipe for that down below, and then placed my bacon in between. Sandwich it together and you've got the ultimate Harry Potter bacon sandwich. So there you have it, our Harry Potter lightning bolt homemade bacon is complete. This isn't a recipe I expected to be making as part of the series, but it was pretty good fun to go through that whole process. So let me know down below in the comments, have you made bacon before? Would you give it a go? And if you want to see more from my Harry Potter kitchen, we've got plenty more to come. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell, then you'll get an alert every Magic Monday when there's a brand new recipe. I must say, I'm not always the biggest bacon fan, but I'm looking forward to giving this a go. I'll see you next week. What can I say? Bacon's good for me.